Blah 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 blah. Hello everybody and welcome to I'll Tell You What TV, the unofficial F1 podcast. I'm Dave and I'm here this evening with Steve, with James and with some other guy who I can never understand and neither can YouTube subtitles. It's Ray. Now Ray's joined us this evening because James isn't feeling well again. I could have sworn earlier he told me that his mum was going black. Turns out you need to read your messages properly because he wrote his gum was going black. So yeah, James is not feeling too well again, so he might not be with us all night. But Ray's here to give his insights, and also Ray is here because he did have a go of the predictions last week, so we're going to have to find out how we got on with that. Anyway guys, how are all three of you this evening? Don't be off for half a second then I thought you knobheads had fucking talked and gone. When he says how are we, say nothing.
If only we'd have thought about that sooner.
Yeah.
I think Stephen Ray has done that, but I'm just I'm dying.
I'm alright.
I'm fine.
As right can be. Good.
Okay. Obviously we're here to talk about the Japanese Grand Prix from this weekend. And I'm interested to know what you guys think about the race, because it was an interesting race for me, or it could potentially give interesting thoughts on how the race went. However, I'm going to mix things up a little bit tonight. I'm going to do things slightly differently. And one of the things that we do on our podcast is we have 6 predictions that we make about the upcoming race, right? And one of those predictions, we don't know if we're right or not until we're on the podcast. So what I want to do straight away, guys, is work out who we're going to decide is Dick of the Day from the Japanese Grand Prix. So I'm interested to know, straight off the bat, who would your 3 people's selection be for Dick of the Day. Now, okay, you could just pick whoever it was you chose in your prediction last week, but I want you to do a genuine, honest, this guy was the Dick of the Day.
Can I go first on this?
If you want. It depends if I want to be a dick. No, fuck off.
Because I'm kind of like stuck between a few here, because for me, right, it could quite easily be Verstappen. Right, and you think, well, he wasn't as bad as some others, but it's his attitude towards his incident that would make him a potential Dick of the Day, right?
Which
because
one?
He leaves. Well, I don't blame him for the one with Vettel,
okay,
right? But the one with Raikkonen, where he cut the last chicane, he went off the track and didn't return safely. But his comment of Kimi Raikkonen should have waited for me. Who the fuck expects another racing driver to wait for you? If you've gone off the track, doesn't matter how much or how little, you've got to return to the track safely without impeding the guys that are racing. You've left the racetrack, you've got to return to it safely. When Vettel went off the track after his mistake, he ended up having to stop and wait for every car to go past. That, Vettel waited for everyone pretty much, because he had at Spoon and put him right to the back.
He ended up right at the back.
And I'm not saying Verstappen should have waited for everybody. And he did say that when he saw Bottas outbreak himself at the last chicane towards the end of the race, Bottas went straight through. and didn't try and stay to the track as much as Max Verstappen. And maybe he should have done that. But to be fair to Bottas, he did slow down a lot, which allowed Max to catch up, so he didn't gain an advantage that way. So it's the attitude of Max Verstappen there that could potentially make him a dick of the day. But you've got Magnussen.
Yeah.
What the fuck was he doing? Moving so late on the straight again. We've seen it in the past, and we've said at some point someone's going to hit him up the rear, and it happened, and it could have been a lot worse. How the fuck he didn't get a penalty, right? And I don't give a shit whether it put him out of the race or not. The comment should be there from the race stewards. This driver's at fault.
Should have been.
He gets a drive-through penalty. He gets a penalty, whether it affects his race or not.
Tough
right?
shit.
Because tough shit. I mean, people are going to see that and go, "Well, that was okay for him to do that."
It's a little bit like going. Okay, this is very different end of the spectrum, but it's a little bit like going. You know what? I've just robbed a bank, but on my way home, someone robbed me, so I haven't got any of the money left. That means I shouldn't go to prison for robbing the bank.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But then you've got Vettel, who's another potential dick of the day for the move on Max, and so, I mean that's a stupid move. But to be fair, he did well after that, so it could be Vettel. But I'm swaying more towards the other two.
How much coffee have you had today? Because last week we barely got a word out of you for the first 15 minutes.
I've been dying since Sunday morning to say all this.
Right. Same here, Steve.
Okay.
Dying as well.
Come on then. All right then. So Steve's opened it up. There's a potential few, so it would appear it's up for discussion. I ain't got a problem with that. So come on then, James. Who would you point your finger at for Dick of the Day, and anything you want to mention about what Steve said?
Well, I'd probably just say main Dick of the Day was Magnussen. When I saw it, I just thought to myself, he shouldn't be in Formula 1. He should not be in Formula 1 doing that. That should be, when you get to Formula 1, if you do something like that, you have a race ban. Something like that was so dangerous. I mean, if Charles Leclerc had flipped, or something horrific had happened, it could have easily, if his car, I mean, they were going full pelt down there towards turn 1. If his car went airborne and went into a crowd, we'd all be like, what the fuck?
I mean, a lot of people don't realise as well that the fastest part of Suzuka is not down towards the 130R. It's actually down the main straight. That's the fastest part of the track.
Because it's all downhill.
Yeah.
Whereas 130 yards uphill.
But I just think Sebastian Vettel was just a comedy. I haven't been able to laugh much because I've been in so much pain.
Right.
When I saw that against Max, I burst out laughing. I was just like, mate, I just cannot believe that he's so fragile in the brain.
I wonder if after that incident happened, whether he sat in the car and went, how does Danny Ricciardo do this?
But the thing with commentators were going, oh, you can't overtake at that corner. And you can overtake at that corner, provided you're alongside him, under braking.
Yeah.
But he was nowhere near. He just kind of forced his way in there and thought, oh, he better move out of the way. But of all people, Max Verstappen's going to make it hard for you.
Yeah.
You need to nail him on an easy DRS overtake, not an incident like that. That were just a fucking joke. I mean, he will lucky to carry on.
Again with James, right? Because Vettel was the worst one that came out of the two, and it being his fault, the steward's decision comes back as no further action.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Which Vettel then sort of adds on to, sort of going, well, I wasn't given a penalty for it, so it weren't my fault. And it's like, no, it was your fault.
Was your fault.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got a possibility of Vettel then. Ray, you'll be sitting there quietly. Who would you pick as Dick of the Day?
Charlie Whiting for not putting messages up saying it's their fault.
Well, to be fair, Charlie Whiting doesn't get to do that during a race. He is...
FIA, whatever.
It's
Yeah, but
it's
the
it's
charge of it.
it's the stewards. It's steward inside, which isn't
Yeah.
Charlie Whiting. Charlie Whiting is the FIA guy, and does like the race directing kind of thing.
Is it Derek
and
Warwick
oversight
and
stuff.
some other
Well,
guys?
it wasn't Derek Warwick at this race.
It was Christensen, the guy that won Le Mans, the
Yeah.
Le Mans legend.
I keep wanting to say Hayden Christensen, but that's an actor, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Darth Vader.
Yeah. But I would agree with what Ray says that the steward. But then again, it's not about giving a penalty. It's acknowledging who's at fault.
Yeah.
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 I mean, one thing I will say is that since we've been doing our podcast and we've picked up on the messages that do appear on the screen, and we have talked about them endlessly on occasion, the messages have become more informative, more clear. So things like when the VSC comes out, how much they actually got to decrease their speed by 40%, not increase
then
their
they
lap
increase their
time
lap.
by, and it's like, so things have become clear. And even regarding incidents, things have become a little clearer with that as well. But at the same time, yes, I think they need to, if the stewards sit there and go, well, it was Vettel's fault, but because he's fucked himself over, we're not going to give him a penalty, then say that. It's a simple, say no further action, Vettel at fault. Right? Now, if you have the same incident, because this thing, if you have the same incident but Verstappen ends up off the track and spun around, does Vettel get the penalty? If the answer is yes, then clarify that Vettel was at fault. Because what you do is you teach your drivers that are racing in your series. You also educate everybody else, and also it stops people, because I could, for example, sit here and go, I think you're wrong though, guys. Sebastian Vettel did absolutely nothing wrong and he was totally entitled to go for that overtake, and actually Max Verstappen should have given him more room. And the reason I can argue that is because the stewards didn't think that it was Vettel's fault. But that's misinformation for you. I mean, just to put misinformation for you into perspective, I'm actually going to show you a picture. And so I'm going to take a second on this. So, misinformation for you, right? You remember last week I mentioned about towards the end of the show, talked a little about the flat Earth morons, right? Well, I've got a picture that is regarding the flat Earth people that I'm going to show you guys. So this is all about misinformation. So I'm showing it on the podcast already. I'll send it to you guys. I suppose I'll have to send it to Ray as well, won't I? So yeah, perfect example of misinformation. It's like, well, how can the sun be 93 million miles away if it's just over there? That distance isn't 93 million miles, is it?
But they use a picture that shows the curvature of the Earth.
Yeah. I mean, that's how stupid these people are. Yeah, it's like, fucking look, there's not 93 million miles, but yeah, there is a curvature on the Earth. But anyway, so that's misinformation for you. Okay, now getting back to the Formula One side of things, I've got some little bits of information for you, because obviously, sort of Ray would blame the FIA, and Steve mentioned about a potential few other people for Dick of the Day. So here we go. By the way, guys, I've done my highlighting this week. I've got one.
What, your hair?
No, I've got one colour for Vettel, one colour for Max, one colour for Dicks of the Days potentials, and one colour for Magnussen. So
Magnussen gets his own colour.
Yeah, he does. Okay, so there's K-Mag for what he did on the main straight. I'll get onto that a bit more in a moment. But there was also Ericsson, who hit the back of his teammate under the safety car restart going into the final chicane.
Unfortunate though.
It was, but at the same time still a bit of a dick. Alonso and Stroll potentials for Dick of the Day. Now Alonso and Stroll both got 5-second penalties, and they didn't show the incident for quite some time. When they did show the incident, they're going around the R130. Stroll's overtaking Alonso on the outside. Alonso gives him loads of room. Stroll runs off the track, overtakes him. Then the side by side. Then Stroll just keeps coming left and hits Alonso off the track. What does Alonso do? He goes, right, fuck this, straight lines the off-track area, goes jumping all over the grass, back onto the track, having gained a couple of positions in a few seconds. So yeah, those two could potentially be in for Dick of the Day. Who else was there? There was one more, I think. Let me just check. Let me get to my colours. No. Okay, so that was it. But for myself, I had chosen Dick of the Day, who I would vote for, by lap 2. And that's simply Kevin Magnussen, right? The move he did on the main straight was fucking ridiculous and shows exactly why Formula 1 banned the Verstappen move a couple of years ago. It also shows why Formula 1 should not have allowed the Verstappen move back into Formula 1 last season. Because this is the situation that occurs, and as James said, it could have ended up a hell of a lot fucking worse. Leclerc, he summed it up perfectly on the radio where he says Magnussen is and always will be an idiot.
I thought he said a cunt.
Well, he could have done. So for me, yeah, K-Mag would get Dick of the Day, but it's not just for that move, right? It's the fact that having made that move, he still pushed hard into turn 1, realised he'd got a puncture, nearly hit Leclerc when he was running wide, but then he's got a puncture, right? His tyre's shredding, so what does he do? He does not slow down. He goes as fast as he fucking can to get back to the
racing
pits.
line. On
the racing line, shredding fuck out of his car, dropping debris around turn 1, around the hairpin, around Spoon, around the R130, around the final chicane, leaving so much debris everywhere it was pretty much guaranteed to bring out a safety car which would benefit him. And that for me is 100% Dick of the Day.
I'd agree with you on that. I just had to put the argument forward on the other ones.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, I hear James has gone a little bit quiet. He has messaged us saying that he's in a lot of pain, so he's going off microphone, which is absolutely fine. Okay, so it would appear then that we all agree pretty much that Magnussen gets Dick of the Day.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, in that case then, let's get on to the predictions. Now, I will let you know, I did make 2 predictions pictures. One where we were right and K-Mag was Dick of the Day, and one where we were wrong and K-Mag wasn't Dick of the Day, just in case we had chosen Vettel, because as you said, Steve, Vettel's comments afterwards were fucking ridiculous. But not only that, so were Max Verstappen's, but we'll get onto those in a few moments. Okay, on to the predictions. Do you two, and even James if he's listening, do you have any idea how you got on with your predictions?
I know I got 2, 3 right, not including the podium one. I'm not sure about anything else. I could barely remember, apart from Hamilton pole and win, couldn't remember what else I said.
Fair enough. Ray, any ideas?
No, I can't see mine.
I know. You're not on the picture, mate. Well, I can let you know, James, he's scored 4 points this week.
Wow.
Yeah. The problem is he's only scored 1 more than me, and Steve has outscored James.
Cool.
So, Steve, you picked Hamilton for pole, James went for Vettel, and I went for Max Verstappen. Ray went for Ricciardo. So Steve's the only one who gets a point there. For the winner, Steve went for Hamilton, James went for Hamilton, I went for Max Verstappen, and Ray went for Bottas. So Steve and James get a point. On the podium, with the new podium rules, you get a point if the name you pick is on the list. It gets on the podium. If you get all 3 in the wrong order, you get 3 points, and if you get all 3 in the right order, it's 5 points. Steve, you got Hamilton, Vettel and Max Verstappen, so you get 2 points. I went for Verstappen, Vettel and Bottas, so I get 2 points. Ray went for Hamilton, Bottas and Max Verstappen, but in the wrong order, so he only gets 3 points.
Bugger.
And James went for Hamilton, Bottas, and Ricciardo. So close to all three in the right order, but he does get 2 points for Hamilton, Bottas. Now, first to crash out. This one I was looking forward to finding out who it'd be. But unfortunately, Steve, you got this fucker right by saying that one will. No one did. No one did crash out.
I couldn't remember if that's what... I know I had intentions of saying that because it was a circuit that had gravel, but I couldn't remember if I stuck with my decision or not.
The interesting thing is, though, given how the practice sessions went and how qualifying went, where there were mistakes and spins...
And how first lap went.
Well, yeah. I mean, I fully expected at least someone to crash out, but no, not even close. Which I suppose is testament to, well, it's either a good thing about Formula 1 drivers or some of them aren't trying hard enough.
It shows that racing can't be done wheel to wheel, otherwise some of these dicks would have had more of a serious incident.
Well, you see, normally I would agree with you, however, for this weekend, I disagree with you.
There was more racing wheel to wheel this weekend, I will say that.
Well, there was a hell of a lot of racing this weekend. But when you've got Vettel overtaking 2 Haas and 2 Sauber, they're not going to put up a fight. So it's like, and if you got Toro Rosso being attacked by a Red Bull, they're not going to put up a fight. So there's a lot of people where they don't need to race wheel to wheel because that's not part of their parameters. Whereas if it was a Ferrari attacking a Mercedes for 8th place, that'd be different. It's like you mentioned that Verstappen and some media were saying that you can't overtake into Spoon. Well, as James said, you can, because there were so many overtakes going into Spoon in that race. It was really enjoyable to see. The differences were Vettel, when he was doing it, and other drivers were more alongside their opponent when they went for the move. And the second part of it is, I think Vettel overtook Leclerc, Ericsson, Grosjean and Magnussen. No, not Magnussen, because he was out of the race after 9 laps. But he overtook the other 3 in Spoon Corner. So they're 3 people that he got alongside and they're not going to fight him. So they're easy overtakes for him to do. But for me, there was wheel-to-wheel racing, and I'll get onto that a little bit more in a little while. So I disagree with your comment this weekend that you can't race wheel to wheel. My comment would be, at Suzuka you can. It was proven. It's just the drivers aren't allowed to. They're not allowed to battle. They're not allowed to defend because they're a Ferrari customer, because they're a Mercedes customer.
Yeah.
Anyway, you got a point for saying no one will crash out. James said Max Verstappen will be first to crash out and that Vettel will blow his engine. It's actually very close on both of them because Vettel nearly did wipe out Verstappen. I went for Hamilton, so no points for James, no points for me. And Ray said it'd be Vettel. You know what? that was really close.
I mean, it's a sort of incident that could quite easily break a suspension. Mm-hmm. And then that would have been classed as a crash out.
Yep, definitely. Okay, on to most positions gained. Now, this is an interesting one. Actually, no, sorry, Dick of the Day. Just to let you know, every single one of us 4 did pick Magnussen for Dick of the Day last week. So we got that absolutely spot on. So I do have to ask the question, have you all said that it was Magnussen so you'd get a point? Or was Magnussen actually Dick of the Day?
I forgot I said Magnussen.
I forgot as well.
I don't fucking believe you, but I have to take your answer.
Well, it's a Tuesday night, see by the weekend. I'm scared and I can't remember.
True. Okay, on to most gained positions then, or most positions gained. Now, Steve, interestingly, went for Leclerc, who got a DNF. James went for Alonso, who I'm pretty sure dropped places. I went for Hulkenberg, who also got a DNF, and Ray went for Grosjean, who you would not believe actually didn't pass the most cars. It was Ricciardo.
Yeah. So I would have gone with Ricciardo if I'd have thought he was going to get an engine penalty. But his engine fucked up. He didn't get a penalty, but he fucked up qualifying. I'm going to have to go with Ricciardo on that this week, you know.
Yeah. And he'll get pole in the win. Okay, so to update on the scores then, Steve's phenomenal points haul from this week means that he's extended a lead up at the top. He's now on 32 points. I'm in second place on 29 points. James is still close though, on 23 points. He's catching. And Ray, you got a total of 4 points on your predictions, which isn't bad.
Well, hey.
Not bad at all. Now, I don't think it's the American Grand Prix this coming weekend, so we've got a bit of a break before we have to do our predictions for the next race.
But hang on, Dave.
Go on.
Because James won't be pain free.
Yeah.
We kind of said we may not do a podcast next week. So if you want to get the predictions in this week, it might be a wise idea because no guarantee there'll be a podcast next week.
Okay, no problem. We can make sure we sort that out later on. Okay, right then. Let's get on to the race. The rest of the stuff from the race, because I know, Steve, you've been itching to talk about the Grand Prix, and I'm sure James has. James has just been itching to talk, really. Ray probably has as well. I know I have. But one thing I want to say is that mine and Steve's mum is a big F1 fan. She's been following Formula 1 for a long time. She's a massive Jenson Button fan. And I was round at the parents yesterday, putting some caster wheels onto a wooden box for her. And as I'm doing it, she decides to crack up some general chit chat. And usually she'll mention about the Formula 1. And she said, so what did you think about the race then? And I thought to myself, I don't want to say too much because I want to save it for tomorrow. And I was like, it was all right. It was an interesting one. It's because, I think Schumacher did really well. I was like, well, yeah, he did, considering he's in a wheelchair and can't speak. And she's like, Vettel. It's like, so is that a sign of Formula 1? That the people are so... what's the word? The thing that James always goes on about, having no personality, right? The people have got such a lack of personality that their names don't stick on the tip of your tongue. Or is it just that Mum's getting a bit old and she thinks, well, he's German, so his name's Schumacher?
Yeah, she could have been on about Mick Schumacher.
I did wonder that, but I don't think she was. Well, she definitely wasn't from her reaction. Anyway, okay, on to the race then. But a little bit like last time out, I want to know, what the fuck are Ferrari doing in qualifying? Because they fucked themselves over once again in qualifying, and it's not just the managers or the mechanics or anything like that. Q3, they put on intermediate tyres when everybody else realises, it's dry enough for slicks. Then it turns out, this might benefit them because they'll be on brand new tyres a little bit later. They'll have the best track situation. Then it's the turn of the drivers to fuck up. Both of them fuck up in the same corner on laps that could have got on pole position. What the fuck is going on?
I think it's a realisation that they were literally clutching at straws, weren't they? They probably thought we need to do something a little different in case it pays off. Because if all was equal, they weren't going to win that race. They weren't going to get pole. They weren't going to win it. So they needed that little bit of something different. That's the only thing I can think of. Because it was interesting. The qualifying was interesting with Ferrari. It didn't go their way. Come the race, though, it just showed that they've given up by not switching the cars over at the end as well.
Yeah. Should they have switched them over?
It's too late. I think now this is what the only thing I can think of is if they'd have switched them over, it would show intent to try and keep battling. But realistically, they probably know that it was pointless. But would Kimi really have wanted to have given the position back? Now he's not signing. I mean, this is the next thing. Once they're not signing Kimi for the next season, which is obviously now he's going to Sauber, he doesn't have any obligations other than his paid contract just to give that position up. Because one thing that Vettel said a few races ago after Monza was he's now racing Raikkonen as well.
Yeah.
Which means he's not going to get any help. I mean, he might have got some help in the last race if it was coming down to that the points were needed at that point in the last race to secure it. He may have done it then, but I can't see Kimi giving him any positions nicely now.
No, I'd agree with you. So your thoughts, Ray? What's going on with Ferrari? Is Steve right?
I don't know. I think the pressure's got to them because they've got to try and get Vettel up there, and they're just bottling it. And they just can't. With the rain situation, they got that completely wrong. And I think it's just pressure getting to them, and they're making silly mistakes.
Thing is, though, how can a team like Ferrari make those mistakes when a team like Toro Rosso with Honda engines have their best qualifying in what, 2 years?
Yeah. I mean, apparently they're
extra pressure.
Yeah, the Toro Rosso engine brought about a half-second a lap upgrade.
Only for qualifying, though, because they were shit in the race. Well, no, Gasly weren't too bad, to be fair.
To be fair,
Toro Rosso aren't fighting for the championship with Vettel, so they've got that added pressure to try and do stuff, and they're just, I think, picking stuff that they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, and also with Toro Rosso, yes, they got the 1 lap pace out of the engine, but a lot of people are saying that engine couldn't sustain the pace for the race. I don't necessarily put it down to the engine not being able to do it for the race, because it's the first time with that engine in a race, and you don't, until they did it in the race, it was unknown what that engine was going to be like on full fuel. On low fuel, a lighter car, and a bit more ground clearance at the start, on empty fuel, it's fine. But once you fill it up with fuel, the car's going to hand totally different, and that's probably why Hartley went backwards at the start more than he was expecting. No, because to be fair, Gasly went backwards a couple of places as well at the start.
I mean, not only that. I mean, yes, it was the new spec engine, but the last thing they would have wanted as well was either one of those cars to go pop around Suzuka, their home Grand Prix.
Yeah. I mean, next race, they'll probably turn it up to max to see what it can do, and they'll probably both go pop.
Yeah.
They've got nothing to lose when they're in America, because Honda in America, it's not a great place for them. I mean, yes, they sell cars over there, but not as many as they do in Japan.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so... I mean, I'm not surprised that Hartley and Gasly both went backwards. I do think it's a shame that Gasly was overtaken on, I think it was the second to last lap. He was on for a point, got overtaken, lost the point. It would have been a big story for Toro Rosso, to be honest, to have scored a point at Suzuka, because Honda have not scored a point at Suzuka. I did have... Since what year? Now James is coming in. He's got stuff to say here.
Well, I was just going to say I'm in too much pain, but I've put something in Messenger for you to talk about.
Oh. Knowing James, it'll be a picture of a naked lady. Okay, so let's see. Oh, James says, hang on, I'm going to... okay, so, James says... After this year's performance, I reckon Ferrari will be looking to get Hamilton over Max Verstappen in the car. If they still had Alonso, it would have been much closer. You know what, James? I think you're right, because I was going to mention that regarding Ferrari. Leclerc's coming into Ferrari, and once again, I think he showed hints this weekend that he's got talent. But once again, Vettel has shown that he can't handle real pressure. When he won his titles, apart from one of his titles, it weren't he never led the championship until the point at the last race that he won it. So
Mark Webber was winning.
yeah, so he was never under pressure there. The other three, he'd pretty much won them when they started the first race. As we've talked about before, he starts a race, gets out in front, runs away, no one can touch him. Okay, put him in a battle, he's a fucking liability, and he's shown it time and time and time again. Now, in my notes, I wrote regarding Vettel, let's check my colours, green for Vettel. Let's see, yeah, Vettel was pushing too hard. All the way through the race, he was pushing too hard. And yes, he was making overtakes, but as I mentioned earlier, most of them were on cars that aren't going to fight him, right? Whereas you put him up against someone that fights him and he crumbles, he cracks, he makes the mistake. I mean, maybe we'd have to find out. I tell you what, James, seeing as if you're sitting there listening in the background, do a bit of research if you can. Have a look at how many crashes Vettel has had this season with the top runners, the Hamiltons, Bottas's, Red Bulls, whoever, that have been his fault. How many have been his fault and how many haven't been his fault?
I reckon you're looking at least 6.
And all of them.
Channel 4 did do a little snippet of his incidences so far this season.
Ooh.
And they've all been with top runners.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it is 6.
Interesting. Now, so Vettel, I mean, it's because I did write, I think that was it. It was right at the end of the race when I made my little notes about the top few drivers, where I put Hamilton, did we see him? Bottas, great defence. Verstappen, fabulous race, I thought. Ricciardo, great race from him. Kimi Raikkonen, didn't see him after the first pit stops. And Vettel, this is how I summed up Vettel's whole race. Twat, then good overtakes. But the overtakes were all on pretty much cars that were not going to battle him, were not going to fight him, didn't put up a challenge. So they're not really good overtakes. It's just that they were overtakes, so it was something to watch.
Yeah. About Kimi Raikkonen, you didn't see much of him. A lot of that, though, was the fact that he was hindered so much by Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
Knocked half his floor off at the side of his car, and at that point, challenging Max Verstappen was out the window.
True. I mean, okay then, is James right? Should Ferrari get rid of Sebastian Vettel and go, you know what, we've had a chance this year of taking the title, you fucked it up?
Well, have Ferrari ever got rid of their top drivers in the past? Yes. Because they got rid of Mansell, who at the time was, I'd probably say, on paper, he was a number 2 driver, but he was equally as good at the time as Berger that was there and whoever else.
Yeah.
And yes,
Prost.
They do get rid. Was it Prost? Was it? I mean,
well, no, I'm just saying Prost was another one.
Yeah, I mean, they do get rid of their top drivers as long as they know they're bringing in a better or equally as good top driver. They won't get rid of Vettel to bring in a Perez. I don't mean the Perez. I mean a run-of-the-mill driver that's just going to bag you. Yeah, you know what I mean. A driver that's just going to bag you points every race.
Yeah.
That you don't very often see make mistakes unless it's against his teammate. I mean, you go down the grid. I mean, Bottas at Ferrari would be an interesting combination because he's a solid driver that doesn't make too many mistakes.
And if you had Bottas and Leclerc, Bottas could potentially be number 1 driver.
Yeah. So Bottas to Ferrari, I can't see it happening, but that wouldn't be a bad replacement for Vettel. But I think the only way Ferrari are going to win a title is by having the fastest car, not the best driver.
Well, okay, I'd agree with you, unless they've got Hamilton. Let's say if you had Vettel in the Mercedes and Hamilton in the Ferrari this year, would Hamilton be what, 6, however many points behind Vettel is now? So I don't think I don't think the answer is an easy one of going, yeah, he'd struggle as much as Vettel. You don't see Hamilton making the mistakes that Vettel makes.
But is that something more to do with the Mercedes car? The fact that when it's following a car, you can't challenge the position as easily. Because we haven't seen the Mercedes making some incredible overtakes on the top running cars.
Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to take you back to France, right?
Paul Ricard, yeah.
Paul Ricard, Bottas.
Who was it on?
He was making moves on some of the top running cars. But what I was going to say, it's not just France and Paul Ricard with Bottas. I said it last week. Bottas will not dive into a space. He waits until he knows, and then he'll go for it, right? And don't get me wrong, I like to see drivers go for it a bit Ricciardo-esque. Vettel, when he goes for it, not only does his opponent not know if he's going to make it, he don't know if he's going to make it.
It's like when you go to overtake Max Verstappen, you don't know whether you're going to get past him or not.
Yeah.
Here's a driver that should go to Ferrari then.
Is that what mean?
You just appear in places that cars should not physically be able to appear.
When you're racing Ray, all you hear is shit, and then you feel the upper back end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Danny Ricciardo to Ferrari.
Yeah.
If they were to get rid of Max Verstappen, it may not be until his contract ends. They may not renew it. And by that point, Danny Ricciardo.
Don't you mean
Vettel?
Yeah.
That's the one.
We see James mentioned Verstappen. Now, you see, Verstappen's one of those drivers. I think Verstappen is a little bit like Alonso was in his early years, where there's a lot of people that didn't like Alonso, but as Alonso got older, his fan base just grew. People just respected. I mean, we know that there was a big cheat at Singapore in the Renault team to get Alonso to win. And okay, yeah, that's a bit dickish, but I'm still a fan of his. I still want to see him do well at IndyCar. I still want to see him go and win Le Mans against competitive cars. Now, Verstappen could end up in that situation at the moment where he is a bit Marmite. You love him or you hate him. I'm kind of like, I really don't like the guy. Which is a bit unfair because I don't know him, but I don't like the way that he, most of the way that he races. I don't like the way that he comes across on camera. I don't like his responses when he's fucked up. But at the same time, I do respect what he's capable of doing in the car when he does it good. Verstappen is sort of aiming towards that level of Hamilton. I mean, for Hamilton, he is easily one of the best overtakers on the grid. And for anyone that disagrees, go back and look at Fuji when it rained. Now, people go on about Verstappen when it rained. Where did it rain recently? China, was it? Where Verstappen was phenomenal in the wet, taking lines nobody else even thought of. I think there was another race as well. It might have been Red Bull Ring, I don't know, a couple of years ago. But anyway, Verstappen in the wet, very, very good. But Hamilton in the wet at Fuji was on a completely different level. I mean, for me, that was the equivalent of, I mean, I hinted at Senna and Donington last week, but Hamilton at Fuji was the equivalent for me of Senna at Donington, lap after lap after lap after lap after lap, all the way through the rain of the race. It was phenomenal. Verstappen hasn't reached that yet. Will Verstappen end up in Ferrari? Potentially. I wouldn't want to see him in Ferrari yet. I'd rather see him in Ferrari already as a champion with the experience of going, right, go on.
You're getting a like for like. Max and Vettel are very similar in the way they drive, the way they respond to questions, the way their attitude towards mistakes they make. They are. The only difference between them is their age.
But that's why I'd like to see Verstappen go there once he's won a championship, once he's matured a little more. I mean, you mentioned about his comment about when he fucked up on the first lap and hit Raikkonen off the track, and I said there was something I was going to add to that a little later. The time is now.
Okay.
Max Verstappen, if you remember, in Singapore, we were surprised to find out, after, or at least I was, to find out afterwards, that Verstappen said, I had the opportunity to attack and overtake Lewis Hamilton when the back markers were fucking about. He didn't say fucking about, but that's what my interpretation. So he had the opportunity, however, he didn't go for it because he didn't feel that it was right. Now, in that moment, he earned a little bit of respect from me.
That 1%.
That 1%, because that's not an easy thing to do. Most people would go, fuck you, I'm going. And they'd be perfectly well within their rights to do so. So Verstappen taking a different approach to that situation opened my eyes a little bit to a potential maturity that he's got. Which
or
then, gonna have, yeah. But when, for example, our mum mentioned about Verstappen or Schumacher and Verstappen yesterday, she mentioned about that how could Verstappen blame Raikkonen? And I said to her what I'm about to say to you now. When you take into account his train of thought in Singapore of going, that's not quite right, I'm not going to do that, and apply it to this situation, maybe you can understand why Verstappen has gone, well, he shouldn't have gone for the move. He should have just waited.
So I disagree.
What? Do you disagree with the thought process, or do you disagree with the fact that that could have been the thought process?
Well, I'll put the counter argument in, and it's this. In Singapore, Hamilton was affected by other drivers, and that's why Max didn't go for it.
Yeah.
Suzuka, Max was affected by his own late braking, out-braking himself, and making a mistake, and that's why it would have been okay, in my opinion, for Raikkonen to go for it, and not in the process of what you were saying, that it wouldn't have been ethical to go for the overtake because he'd made a mistake. He's made a mistake, go for the overtake.
Yeah. Oh no, don't get me wrong, I'd go for the overtake without a doubt, and I would say to Verstappen, what the fuck are you doing? I mean, Verstappen tried to do the right thing, he just did it in the wrong way, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it in the past where drivers have made mistakes, but maybe there needs to be something at that Suzuka chicane, a bit like Monza Turn 1, where if you're not making the corner, you go down the escape road, you've got the little chicane. On some corners, they have a bollard that you've got to go past before you return. And if there'd have been something like that, he would have returned to the track at a much less angle, or more of a shallow angle.
Yeah.
And because of the angle he tried to make the corner at, I mean, one thing he said to me was he tried his best.
Did he speak to you, did he?
He did.
When was this then? You've opened the gateway now. When was this?
Right. It was the other day. It was on Sunday. One of the things he said on this interview was he tried his best to keep to the track. Now, from off board the car, you can see clearly he's not staying on the track.
Yeah.
All right. But in his mind, sat in the car, in the cockpit, with limited visuals of how, where the track markings are in relation to his wheels, he might have thought he was only just off the track. And if it was only just off the track, as in half a wheel, then I can kind of see why you would expect Raikkonen not to go for the overtake. But I believe it was more off the track than what he thought.
Oh yeah, he was fully off the track. I mean, it was clearly 100% his own fault. Anyway, there was a reason why I was talking Verstappen to Ferrari. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a problem with my headset. I can't hear properly in one of my ears. So Verstappen to Ferrari. I mean, that's something that's definitely not going to happen for next year anyway, unless Ferrari are willing to open their bank account wide, because Verstappen's contract is already set for next year. He's not re-signed a contract recently, I don't think, but his contract is already in place for next year. The year after that,
I'm pretty sure he's got a multi-year contract.
Yeah, quite possibly. The year after that, you never know, because I would expect next year would be when he would be renegotiating his contract, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's already said to Red Bull, "Look, I'm not interested in having any contract talks until we know what the car's like." Because if they bolt the Honda engine in and it's shit, he ain't gonna want a new contract. If they bolt the Honda engine in and it's a monster, then he's gonna want a new contract. So there's no sort of hiding that.
It's going to be interesting though, isn't it? With that, I mean, I know we're just diverging a little bit, but you take that. I mean, at the moment, the Honda engine has been in a underperforming McLaren and an underperforming Toro Rosso.
Yeah.
Now it's going in one of the top 3 cars that have got the capability of being like a minute ahead of all the other cars by the end of the race.
Yeah.
Now, is it all of a sudden going to make Red Bull a minute behind Ferrari, or are we going to see something different from the Toro Rosso engine in the Red Bull, and is it going to put them ahead of where they are currently? Come
on then, Ray. What do you think on that?
I don't know.
That's what fucking answers. I don't know. Come on, give us something.
I'm not too sure. But Vettel, he's got a lot of answers.
He didn't hear the question.
He obviously didn't hear the question.
Right, what was the question?
Fucking
I just came back for a pee.
Fucking hell. Will the Honda in the Red Bull be a minute behind where it is at the moment, or will it be fighting for the championship?
Oh, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. What the hell? I would hope it would be fighting, but I don't see it.
I'm going to say now, it's going to be a championship winning car. I've just got this horrible feeling that Red Bull are going to bolt it into their car, and it's just going to be the right time, the right package, and it's going to blow everybody away. Unfortunately, I don't want it to happen. I really don't.
Why? Because it'll be Max Verstappen.
No, to be honest,
I'll be championship and then he's Ferrari.
Well, to be honest, that could be what happens, and I wouldn't be surprised if. I mean, I don't want Honda. I think what it is, right, is I wanted Honda to be a success at McLaren, regardless of who their driver was, apart from Magnussen or Perez. I'll try to think of any others. No, so those are two. But I wanted Honda to be a success at McLaren. The way that all came about for a number of years, for me it was Honda was shit, Honda was shit, Honda was shit, and they were. But McLaren, it turns out, McLaren was shit, McLaren was shit, McLaren was shit, and they were lying. Also, I think I know what's happened to Eric Boulier. There's a new company being formed, which is Workplace Perks. Free chocolates for your staff. So I think Boulier's got to go himself a new business. So I think it's a bit of the hatred of seeing Honda fuck up at McLaren that for me to just be a little bit wrong to see them go into Red Bull and win the championships. From Red Bull's perspective, I mean, to be honest, I've never been a fan of Red Bull, but I do like Danny Ricciardo. So if the Honda becomes a championship winning car, I would have preferred Danny Ricciardo be in the car and be the one getting the championship.
Yeah. I think I'm similar with the way Ferrari runs at the moment. I've always had I've always seen Ferrari as kind of like the baddies, and Mercedes or McLaren being the goodies, and Williams are a goodie, and like Red Bull are the baddies kind of thing, and you got your goodies and your baddies. But I wouldn't mind seeing Ferrari having a really good, strong season, dominating and winning for a season,
but not
having
with
good
Vettel.
battles, but not with Vettel. Yeah. And I would like to see a driver in there winning a championship that I respect.
I mean, I would like to. I mean, Hamilton has said before. I don't know if he's ever said that he wants to drive a Ferrari, but I'm pretty sure he has previously said it's every young wannabe Formula One driver's dream to race at Ferrari. Now, could Hamilton end up at Ferrari? Well, to be honest, if you're Ferrari, you want the best driver and the best car. And
people at Ferrari should be knocking on his door every single year.
Yeah. And going, when are you joining us? When are you joining us? What do you need? What do you want? What do you want?
Because
what do you want?
guaranteed, right? If Enzo Ferrari was still alive, he would have been camping on Hamilton's doorstep or living in his motorhome and saying, "You need to be in my Ferrari. You need to be in my Ferrari. How many Ferraris do you want to be able to come and drive for us?
Yeah.
We'll build a Ferrari called the Hamilton.
Yeah.
Come and drive for Ferrari."
Every F1 driver that's driven for Ferrari recently has been given a Fiat or a Maserati. Will give you a Ferrari. Admittedly, though, Leclerc has apparently been given a Ferrari. I don't know if Vettel got a Ferrari.
Is he old enough to be insured in a Ferrari?
I don't know. Probably not.
You sure it's not a Renault?
It's not. No, it is a Ferrari. He was asked about it by Ted Kravitz this weekend. Ted just he was interviewing him, and he just went, so what's your new Ferrari like? And Leclerc sort of looked at him, smiled and went, "I haven't got a Ferrari. I don't own a Ferrari." He said, "Well, you might not own a Ferrari, but I do believe Ferrari have loaned you a Ferrari." It's like, well, yeah. It's just, exactly. So what's it like? He said, "Well, I'm not telling you." So I have no idea what car it is he's got. I mean, for all I know, it could be a Ferrari Matchbox car.
I'll see if I can find that.
Yeah, unfortunately, Marcus Ericsson just received an old shitty Ericsson phone.
And it's only got one number on it for AA.
Yeah. You're not having an Alpha.
Yeah, we can't afford
shit.
We can't afford the repairs on it.
Plus, your teeth won't fit in cockpit.
Oh dear.
I've perked up a bit now. The pain just literally within 5 minutes just went a bit.
The thing is, you'll notice with toothache pain, a lot of it can be tied to blood pressure. The more your heart's going, the more it hurts. Anyway, so go on, James. Go on. You're here. So what have you got to say?
Exactly what you've been saying. Everything I've been listening to, it's been pretty much what I've been thinking. Like, I mean, probably next year will be the first year where I'm probably supporting a Ferrari, like what Steve was saying with baddies and goodies. I think you're going to have your bad Ferrari, which is Vettel, and then you're going to have your good Ferrari, which is Charles Leclerc. But I just hope to God that it's equal number one, because if Charles Leclerc gets started treating him like a little number two, it'll be a fucking joke, because you don't go and put him in there. It's the first time Ferrari have done something that's similar to what McLaren did in 2007 with Alonso and Hamilton.
Yeah.
And in a way, I don't want that same situation to happen, but in a way, I kind of think if Charles Leclerc puts on a good show and Vettel is beaten, that'd be lovely. That'd be so good.
Yeah. And the thing is, there'd only be one place Vettel could go then, and that'd be Mercedes. I mean, I could see the Vettel Hamilton Mercedes switch, but touching on something you said there about you hope Leclerc's not treated as a number two driver, right? And we've talked about number ones and number two drivers in the past, and hopefully people understand the concept of it. Paul, if you're listening, hopefully you'll have learnt it by now. But something that, I mean, I only just thought about it, right? Okay, Vettel at Red Bull, Vettel at Ferrari, even if it's not in a contract or not publicly known, there is definite perception of number one and number two driver. And that comes from early on in the season, right? It's not just a case, oh, well, Vettel's leading, he's in the championship fight, so yeah, number one, number two driver. Because, and the reason I say this is, every single driver, I'm pretty sure, could appreciate if you were in that position, you and your teammate is fighting for the championship, there's only a few races to go, you will do what you can to help him. That's what you do, right? Unless you're an absolute fucking knobhead, right? Now, would you do it from the start of the season? No, because
No.
it's open. Everybody has an equal opportunity. Now, at Ferrari, if Leclerc straight away off the bat is beating Vettel, and Ferrari go, well, let's just screw you up a little bit, switch it around, they'll lose so many fans. But my point I wanted to make is Vettel at Red Bull, Vettel at Ferrari. Compare that to Hamilton at McLaren and Hamilton at Mercedes. How many of Hamilton's teammates fucking hated him? And how many of Vettel's teammates fucking hated him? Now, okay, Vettel and Raikkonen get on quite well, but it's clear to see that Raikkonen hates the fact that he gets pushed into that number 2 slot.
Yeah.
And that's been proven in the last few races where he has beaten Vettel. Whereas Hamilton, even at the height of the battle with Rosberg, as much as they hated each other, there was that respect of, thank you for helping me out, thank you for backing me up. But with Hamilton, it's, come on, fight me, come on, let's go and race, let's go and have a battle, until we're at that point of having a champ. Whereas with Vettel, for me, it's kind of like, get out of my way, get out of my way.
Yeah.
Get out of my way.
The one time where I proper just thought, Vettel, you are a dickhead, were when I can't remember the race. I think it might have been the Multi-21 race, when it was before it all kicked off, and he just said something like, "Mark is too slow, get him out of the way."
Yeah.
He was just like, you'd never hear that come out of Hamilton's mouth.
No,
if he were coming up against a teammate.
Yeah, and to prove what you're saying, I think it was on last week's podcast how I mentioned about at Russia when Hamilton was told Bottas will let you through at turn 13. Hamilton's response was, no, tell him just to speed up. So his reaction was, no, don't make him give me the position, just tell him to go a little bit faster. Whereas Vettel was, he's too slow, he's a dick, move out of my way. And I mean, I remember that because I remember thinking, and I've said it many times, Perez, if you're fucking faster, overtake him, you cunt. And if you can't overtake him, that tells you why your teammate can't overtake the car in front of him. Don't be a cunt.
Yeah.
So I went off on
No, yeah, well, you're right. But I just don't understand why the media doesn't call that out. Like, if I were one of the media people in the pen, I'd just go up to Vettel and go, I just want to focus on this comment you made in the race.
8 years ago.
Don't you think you sound like an absolute cunt? And then just see his reaction.
Yeah.
See what he does, because he's... And then just go, well, you know, I'll just say, oh, well, just do a bit of white line and just be like, oh, you know, just so you know, Twitter's reacting, and a lot of people just think you're an absolute cunt, mate.
I'd love to see James meet Vettel and go, I think you're amazing, like total starstruck. Tom going over, oh, it's Sebastian Vettel, it's Sebastian Vettel. Vicky, if you're listening to this, if James ever meets Vettel, Magnussen, Ericsson, who else is he that shit that he doesn't? Perez.
I probably do see Magnussen, I probably do pass like people like Ericsson every day. It's just he doesn't. The definition of
your local Audi.
the definition of a Formula 1 driver to me is always super cool, super fast, and you know, more often than not, they've got really good hair. I mean, look at Carlos Sainz. You know what I mean? That's
Alonso.
Brendan Hartley.
But
Dave, Longo Dongo.
There's some Formula 1 drivers that you just like. How are you a Formula 1 driver? I mean, I'm glad in a way. I mean, people kicking off going, "Oh, it's a shame for Marcus Ericsson." No, it's not. He shouldn't have been in Formula 1. He's just not good enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we mentioned
they need to do the same with a lot of other drivers. I mean, how Grosjean's still got a job, I do not know.
I mean, we said it before. If you win Formula 2 and you're allowed to stay there when there's no seat in Formula 1, Formula 2 becomes stronger. And then you end up with the likes of Ericsson racing Van Dorn, racing George Russell, Lando Norris, and finding out actually which one is the better. Because so many of them haven't raced each other. And it's like, ugh. I mean, one thing I will say though about this weekend's race, I mean, I said this to Steve, that given the time of the race, it started 6:10 in the morning, I ended up staying awake all night Friday night to see qualifying, and then all night Saturday night to see the race. So by the time it came to watching qualifying and watching the race, and I'd finished watching it, I kind of sat back and went, you know what, I actually think that was a brilliant fucking race. That had so much, it was a really exciting race. Or is it just that I'm so tired I can't really judge it properly? But for me, it was a brilliant race, and one of the reasons that I disagreed with a comment that Steve made earlier about not being able to race wheel to wheel, right? Here's my reason I disagree. Overtakes were being done in non-DRS areas. Yeah. It's a track thing. We've mentioned it before. Silverstone, Monza, Spa, the proper racetracks are giving good races. Suzuka, a good race. Baku, shit. Singapore, shit. Australia, shit. The non-proper racetracks are giving us shit races. DRS was not needed in Suzuka to create an exciting race, because I'm pretty sure there was more overtakes in non-DRS zones than there was into turn 1.
That's only because drivers were eager to get past, like Vettel was.
Yeah, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. Just to fill you in on Charles Leclerc, Dave, I've sent you a picture of his Ferrari.
Yeah.
But to give you a bit more information on Charles Leclerc's Ferrari, that road car, that he was, some say he was gifted it, some say he was loaned it. Marcioni gave him the keys to the Ferrari on his 20th birthday in October last year.
Oh.
Bloody hell.
So, if it was, it could be seen as it's for your birthday, or is it that back then they knew that he would be in the Ferrari?
Well, I saw some of his Formula 2 races, and they were just beyond belief. Like, some of the moves he were pulling. And I think it just showed you when he come up against a driver like Magnussen. Magnussen should not be in Formula 1. And people like Charles Leclerc should be in a way better car. And it's good to see that talent is actually getting to the top. Now, I think what it mainly is with Ferrari is they knew that they fucked about with Bianchi.
Oh, Bianchi, yeah.
They left it too late.
Yeah.
And after a year or two, they should. After that moment in Monaco, they should have said, "Do you want to drive?"
Yeah.
Because to get a point out of that shitty manner, it's like getting a fucking blood out of a stone.
Schumacher managed it. Sorry. So sorry.
Oh, that's wrong.
That's why I apologise. I'm so sorry.
I'm in too much pain.
I'm in trouble for that one. I do like Schumacher. I am a fan of Schumacher. Well, I was never a fan of Schumacher's while he was at Ferrari. When he went to Mercedes, fan. Always respected what he did, but fan. I think you might be right about. I think Ferrari making the right decision, putting Leclerc in. He has shown time and time again this season is good enough. Magnussen is a weird one, right? When we started doing the podcast last year, Magnussen was the butt of all of our jokes for being a shit driver. And there have been times this year where he has been very, very good. But when he is shit, like he was in Suzuka,
He's shit.
he totally outweighs any of the good that he's ever done. Because what he did that was bad, I mean, it's for me, it's unforgivable. Unforgivable. I would be interested to know what the stewards would have done had it fucked up Leclerc and Magnussen got away with it. Whether they would have penalised it or not, because apparently in their rules you're allowed to do that, wait to see which way the guy's going and then block him. And bear in mind, when we were talking on last week's podcast, we did talk about whether Vettel should have got a penalty for a possible double move on Hamilton and blocking him. And there was kind of a consensus where what he did was wrong, but probably got away with it because none of Hamilton's car was alongside. Well, none of Leclerc's car was alongside, so to be devil's advocate, aren't you hypocritical for saying that what Magnussen did was wrong?
It's more of how
everyone.
More of how late it was, though. It was so late in the movement that Leclerc had no way to respond to it.
Yeah. I mean,
Hamilton had a chance to respond. That was the only difference.
Well, it were close, but yeah, the one way Magnussen were just disgusting.
Just reminded me actually. I want to mention this while we're just talking about that situation. Magnussen's tyre.
Yes.
When it's shredded, and especially as it came into the pit lane, you saw it whipping around and shattering all his bodywork and what have you. If they do go for this new over the rear wheel cover kind of thing for what's been the concept images show for 2021, it's just going to rip that to shreds as well. It's going to be even more debris everywhere.
Well, if your front wing it's a piece of like reinforced metal that's over the back of the tyre, then hopefully it shouldn't. But I know what you mean. If you manage to get a freak incident where a piece of carbon fibre hits your tyre, it will just rip the back end of the car in half.
Yeah, it will. But I wouldn't be surprised if Formula One ends up with a situation like Le Mans do, where a big portion of the back section can come off in one, so it could be replaced. I mean, I know that when IndyCar brought in their rear
wheel guards,
wheel guards, that was simply to avoid punctures happening, and it helped massively. So I think if Formula One did a similar thing, it would massively reduce the possibility of a puncture. However, if they did have a puncture, yeah, you're right, it's going to, unless the driver goes slower. I mean, you look at Alonso, I may use this analogy for years to come. Alonso gets a car that's only got 2 inflated tyres on it back to the pits and continues the race in Baku, but Magnussen can't get back to the pits on 3 tyres that are inflated without ripping to fuck his car.
Yeah, it's just a different class of driver.
Yeah.
Alonso's a class. Yeah, he's got his dark side with his bit of his dodgy outings here, there, and everywhere through his career. But he's a class driver, a bit like Schumacher. He's got his dodgy moments in his career, but he was also a class driver and he used his brain. People like Magnussen do not have a fucking brain.
Be composed.
Yeah. Well, you say be composed. I mean, have you guys seen the incident between Alonso? There's 2 incidents actually. The incidents between Alonso and Stroll from Suzuka.
Yes,
Yeah, it was class. It was brilliant. I would have probably done the same. I'd have been like, well, if it's going to be like this, then fuck you.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care anymore.
I can understand in a way where the line he took, Alonso,
Yeah.
to get back onto the track. But at that point, he should have gone, right, where's Stroll? And let Stroll come back and have the position. He'd have had no penalty. He still would have had a chance of overtaking him. Should have done anyway.
I think he may have given the position back. I'm not sure, unless Stroll
No,
overtook
because
him.
his 5-second penalty was for gaining advantage from being on track.
But hang on, sorry. Stroll got the same penalty at the same. Well, actually, no.
For causing a collision.
No. Stroll didn't get it for causing a collision. Stroll, no, he didn't. Stroll's no, he didn't. Stroll's 5-second penalty was for overtaking while off the track. He went off track on the exit of the R130, which allowed him to make the overtake when he was given plenty of space. Then he hits Alonso, and Alonso got the penalty for straight line in the last corners.
But
don't agree with you.
I forgot what I was going to say. I think. Oh yeah, that's what I'm going to say. I just think Alonso don't care anymore.
Well, the thing is, you mentioned about him being a classy driver. When Alonso managed to make the overtake on Stroll down the start finish, we all probably saw what he did, which was he's making the move nice and easy, but at the last moment he swings across the track, and I actually wrote. On the replay of both incidents, the first one where Alonso straight lines the chicane, I wrote on replay looked like a fuck you moment from Alonso, and same good when he made the overtake down the start finish. It was a sort of, he swung across in a very aggressive but safe manner, as though to say, you're a dick, fuck off.
Yeah, it were his way of, without getting his finger out at Halo and sticking it up at him. It was his way of doing that without doing that.
Yeah.
Right, okay, hang on. Stroll earned his penalty for causing a collision with Alonso and pushing him off track, while the Spaniard was handed his penalty for cutting the chicane and gaining an advantage.
Where are you getting that from? Because I'm looking on Google as well, by the way.
That's Planet F1. Silence.
I'm reading. My TV screen's now quite a long way away from where I'm sitting.
Also, after the race, Stroll was hit with 2 penalty points on his licence for the collision.
The collision wasn't that bad. It was just stupid. It just moved across as if he didn't know that.
It was stupid because, I mean, even we play video games. If you'd just overtaken somebody, you run off wide and then you come back on, you would leave a car's width automatically because you'd think, well, he might be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's just Steve.
But no, I mean, James is right. I mean, obviously we are gaming racers, and most of the time we would. If you're battling with a car, even if you don't know where they are, but you know they're somewhere near, you leave that bit of space. Anyway, I can't read the screen from as far away as I am, so I'm still going to disagree with you, Steve, about what Stroll's penalty was for, just for the sake of argument.
I'll send it to your phone.
Fuck off. It's on airplane mode. I won't get it till later. Anyway. So, I mean, I was mentioning a few...
hang on. The official Formula1.com.
Yeah.
Right. This is what they have put.
Stroll's a cunt.
Stroll was given a 5-second time penalty for causing a collision.
Alright.
That's the official F1 website.
I don't believe you. Right, sorry.
Just so you know, I'll be listening, but I'm in a lot of pain again.
Alright. So we're going to talk Star Wars then. That's me. I will mention as well quickly, for anyone, any regular viewers of our podcast, might know that we would normally do a after show. As far as I know, we're not planning on doing an after show this evening. After shows without James just aren't the same.
No.
I don't know. Right. Sorry, I needed to...
Back to the F1. Let's have a little think. for a minute. Where
I'll
were
tell
we
you
up to?
what, Ray's been quiet for a little while James has come in and spoke. So, Ray, give us your view, whatever views you have about the Japanese Grand Prix or anything that you want to mention from the weekend's race.
You're asking a Scotsman to to remember back to yesterday, or I think 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
There's something I've picked up. There's more swearing in the bloody interviews. Who was it done it? Hartley done it.
Did you watch Channel 4?
Hartley done it, and then there was
Hulkenberg.
Oh, and Vettel done it as well, so there was more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean Hulkenberg's interview on the grid just before the national anthem, literally said, "Yeah, well, it's pretty shit, innit?" David Coulthard was like, "Sorry for the language, well, it is shit though, isn't it?" He says, "I've learned from the best, haven't I?" But...
I mean, okay, so swear. What's your problem with it, Ray?
I don't have a problem with it. I was just never used to hear this.
Well,
it used to be more professional in a way.
The thing is, when it comes to interviews, I want to see emotional interviews. It's a little bit like, I don't know. It's the same with football. Okay, right. For example, one of the highlights of the weekend for me was when Danny Ricciardo fucked up his voice by yelling in his helmet in qualifying. Yeah. The car fucks up. I mean, his season since he's signed for Renault has just been absolutely diabolical, and not his fault in any way, shape, or form. Right? I mean, let's put it this way: if his career had started at the point that he signed for Renault, so he'd never raced before, he starts then and he's driving now, we would be sat here saying he's not good enough for Formula 1. He can't get a car through qualifying, let alone a race. But because he has had the career before these last few months, we know he's fucking brilliant. But something is happening at Red Bull. Something is happening with that car. Something is happening with that team.
They would not let him be ahead of Max Verstappen from that point onwards. Yeah. Since he signed for Renault.
Yeah.
And he done a great drive.
Oh yeah, he did.
But I wouldn't be surprised though.
I've seen with Max Verstappen, he can be up at the front of the grid, and he doesn't do anything. But see, when he's at the back of the grid, he just flies through and ends up near enough podium.
I think James has got the answer for that one. I know James can't speak at the moment, but James would say, yeah, but that's because all the other cars can't compete with a Red Bull or a Ferrari. I mentioned it must have been 2 months ago on one of our podcasts, where I sort of hinted at the way that this season's gone with the amount of safety cars that have. I mean, okay, the races haven't been safety car affected recently, but there have been a lot of safety cars. But how the races have gone, where some of the most exciting races have been when there's a Red Bull further down the grid. This weekend, a Ferrari qualifies 9th. There's a bit of excitement. So I'm going to ask you guys again. On the way that races have gone recently, should Formula 1 look at doing a reverse grid?
Quite possibly.
Have a race on the Saturday that decides your reverse grid for the Sunday.
I wouldn't say have a race, dude. The first race of the season has qualifying, yeah, and then championship order, reverse grid for the rest of the season. So what do you do for qualifying instead of qualifying at each event? Well, you don't have to do anything. You could just have another test session because the drivers will know what position they'll be in.
I know what you do.
What?
Yeah, you have your FP1, you have your FP2, and you have your FP3. All right. But FP3 would now be at the time qualifying is on. The reason for it is, actually no, right? You do FP1 on a Friday at the same sort of time that your race would be. FP2 is on a Saturday morning. In between FP2 and FP3 is the F1 reserves race. So all of the reserve drivers, the rookies, the youngsters, the potentials that are no longer in Formula 2 because they're not allowed to be, they have their little race. They get their experience. They go to every track. It's something.
You could do it where each team has a third car.
Yeah.
All right. They don't race in the F1 GP, but it'd only be a 10-car grid. But you'd have a race of the test drivers, the rookies, the whoever, and pitch them up against each other.
Give them,
and then it can give more info to
their main team as well. Yeah, you're right, Ray. Yeah, you'd have an insight as to, okay, what's the track doing, what are the tyres doing, what is this doing, and also you could have. I'm not saying they should do it, but you could have FIA teams. Not FIA teams, but you could have teams like independent teams that go, well, look, we can't afford to be in Formula 1, but we can afford to run a Formula 1 reserves team. So to give people an opportunity.
If a new team wants to come into Formula 1, they can try the hand in it there first. I'm not saying they have to,
right,
but it gives them the option to.
F1 Esports, I want the fucking money for this idea. That the F1 Reserves race would also have a team in there for your F1 Esports champions. You could also go as far as to go, oh, hello, Gran Turismo, your GT Academy. Oh, hello, your project cars, your esports best of the best sim racers, your PC sim racers. You got the guy, Rudy Van Buren, one of the best PC sim racers in the world, gets in at McLaren. There's a couple of other competitions going on at the moment for some of the top sim racers. Esports and sim racing is becoming a new gateway into motorsport, and I'm not surprised. It's cheaper than go-karting and the lower formulas, and it's safer.
And you don't get
as
wet
well.
when it rains.
Yeah, well, you do if you piss yourself. You could always have someone sat there going, it's raining, and pouring water on you, but your floor get a bit wet. But that could be the way through. And if
electrocuted by the electricity.
yeah. But that could be the way to do it. So you have FP1 on a Friday afternoon, FP2 on a Saturday morning. You have your F1 reserves race. Then you have FP3. So your practice sessions, you don't lose. All you'd lose is that thrash of qualifying. Now, for the first race of the season, FP3 is what will the fastest lap. You have that in your current qualifying format. So race 1, FP3 would be the qualifying session, and then, as you said, Steve, championship order. So if you win the race, you start at the back. That would mix things up every single fucking week, and it would mean that if you've got a team like Mercedes, whose car's been dominant recently, or Red Bull when their car was dominant, and they're winning races, chances are they're coming from the back to win races. So there's always going to be that overtaking, that action to fight, to get to the front, to get the points. And that would be much more exciting. I mean, what we've experienced this season is perhaps...
But then it could cause more crashing with late lunges or inexperienced drivers.
Yeah. I mean, okay, it does then end up with having the possibility of having the likes of Stroll on pole position, or Magnussen.
Magnussen behind them.
Yeah, but imagine it though, Magnussen starting at the front. Okay.
Or if you had a situation where Max Verstappen's fourth from the back, but you know he's a bitch to overtake.
Mm-hmm.
But to be ahead of him in the race, in the Drivers' Championship, you've got to get past him.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is as well, this season we have experienced, I think at most, the 2 Red Bulls starting at the back of the grid together, or Bottas and Ricciardo recently. The rest, when people have had engine penalties, it tends to be like a Renault or a Toro Rosso. None of the major teams. So you get to see one driver work their way through. Well, imagine if you had 2 Mercs, 2 Ferraris, 2 Red Bulls, 2 Renaults, all at the back of the grid, trying to get their way to the front. Not only are those, well, I would say 6 cars, not only are those 6 cars going to be fighting each other, they're going to be fighting to get past every fucker else as well.
But also, if you did have a a definite number one, number two situation. Let's say take Mercedes for instance. Once you've got the number one driver Hamilton ahead of Bottas, because obviously he would have started behind him. Once you've got him ahead of Bottas, as they work their way through the field, Bottas's job would be do not let anyone overtake you.
Yeah.
Hold them back as many places as you can while Hamilton gets to the front.
Yeah.
It becomes a lot more strategic.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah. You follow me. I'll help you overtake people. You stop them overtaking you and attacking me. And that's where teammates would become teammates and work to shake and bake, baby. That kind of situation. I mean, I was playing on Gran Turismo recently, and I was on a long straight, and I went to bump draft someone, and they kept moving out the fucking way, and I'm thinking, you.
Oh, who was that?
I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah,
It wasn't the Scottish, was it?
I mean, it wasn't.
Scottish.
It'd be interesting to see what James's thought would be on what we've just mentioned there. If you're listening, James, feel free to send us a message or give us a shout, whatever. So yeah, Ray, I asked you about things that have sort of interested you from the race this weekend. You came up with the swearing. I mean,
I think the racing was good. Don't get me wrong, it was good. I liked coming through the fields and that, and it was good. I was surprised Ricardo couldn't do much more.
Yeah, I mean,
it might have been that he wasn't allowed to do more.
Quite possibly. Quite possibly. I mean, I don't have a problem with people swearing. It happens. I mean, I swear a lot, so I couldn't care less if other people swear.
I never fucking swear.
I fucking noticed. But what I will say is, I am so glad that it wasn't a boring as fuck race. If I'd have stayed up all night to see a boring as fuck race, I'd have been so pissed off. And that is one of the reasons why some of the races recently, I've not been that bothered if I've not seen it live. Like Singapore, I wasn't like, I've got to see it live, because it was a race there I was like, well, nothing's going to happen. If there isn't a crash at turn one, nothing's really going to happen. Admittedly though, it was entertaining this year. So I'm so glad that for me, it was a very entertaining race to watch. It was entertaining to see Vettel crumble. It was entertaining to see Verstappen putting up a great fight. And to be fair, he had Bottas on the ropes in the last few laps, which begs the question, if you remember last week, guys, Ray, you asked, why was Verstappen nowhere near as quick on the faster tyre? Turns out he was saving his engine. Were they right to save the engine, given how strong a race Verstappen had?
They never overtook him, so...
It's true.
But would he have finished third had he pushed harder in the last race? Maybe not.
Or maybe he could.
I think the way Verstappen looks at it is that his position in the drivers' standings is not going to change from now to the end of the season.
Yeah.
So what position he gets during a race is kind of irrelevant in a way, but for every position is not going to make it easy for the person he's racing against.
Yeah. Which, as much as we've slated Magnussen today, I'm sure James would agree with what I'm about to say. Magnussen has not made it easy for anybody to overtake him. Doesn't matter who they've been. Look,
James has come in with your comment.
Right.
Would you like me to read this one out?
Go on then.
James says, no practice allowed. Do qualifying straight away on the Friday, then do practice after that. Saturday, you could have a classic car race with 3 teams, so reserve drivers can show talent. Depends on how classic you mean. I mean, it could be like previous year's car, or it could be 10-year-old car. But interesting doing qualifying straight away. So that's kind of like you won't have a setup or you won't have had any practice. All you have is previous season setup and data. But that would be an interesting way of doing it. To go straight out and getting the quality in, and then you've got wherever you qualify, you have to deal with.
Yeah. That would be interesting.
It'd be a different way of doing it.
Also, there would be more chance of. I mean, you're on the limit straight away. The more chance of you fucking up and crashing.
Yeah.
It could be interesting. I definitely would. I like the idea of seeing F1 reserve drivers out on track at an F1 weekend. I definitely like that idea.
And it should be called F2.
Yeah. You're not wrong there. They should be called F2. George Russell was on commentary in FP2 this weekend, and he was asked how big a difference it is driving a Formula 2 car compared to Formula 1. He said, well, the difference between like a Formula 3 car to Formula 2 car is about 4 seconds. The difference from a Formula 2 car to a Formula 1 car is now about 13 seconds faster. Is that too much of a gap?
No, because he was also asked on Channel 4 which is more physical to drive. And he says the G-forces affect you more in a Formula 1, but the F2s don't have any power steering. So physically, to drive for a long period of time, the F2 takes more out of you physically, and that also affects you mentally if you're not physically prepared for it. So the lap time difference, the analogy you went with, I don't necessarily see it being too much of a problem.
Yeah.
It's more about the physicality side of it, is what basically George Russell said, because he was saying that when he spent a lot of time in a Formula 1 car recently, a tyre test session, it was the first time in a long time he noticed he got bruising on his ribs. Because he's a lot taller than Hamilton and Bottas. When he gets into one of their cars and shares a car with them to do testing, he's a lot bigger, but he moves around in one of them because the G-forces are a lot. And he basically says the G-forces, the only thing you can relate it to is when you first get into a go-kart and go racing and realise how much you're getting whacked from one side to the other when you go around the corners.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't experience that because it's always snug.
When I was slimmer, I definitely had bruised ribs from where you'd get you'd slide about in the seat and it'd dig in your ribs at the sides.
Well, let me tell you about this, right? I was a manager of a particular business, right? And all the managers went for of all the different shops.
I didn't know you worked at Pornhub.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we all went away for a go-kart race, courtesy of the MD. The smallest guy, right? Smallest manager, he must be about 5 foot tall, came away with 3 broken ribs on one side.
Ooh.
Just from going around the corners, not from a crash, just from racing it, because it was primarily more corners one way. It was hitting the same side more often than not.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Now I do know that James did say to me a few weeks ago when we were on Project Cars 2, he said to me and Dave, he was like, "Oh, my tits are really hurting." straight away I knew exactly what he meant. And Dave was like, what do you mean? He says, have you ever had it where you're driving and all of a sudden like your tits and your ribs and your guts start hurting? I was like, yes, James, it's called being fat. Because I've had that.
It's like under your underboob.
Yeah.
It's like where it digs in. It's the crease.
Yeah.
And it's like when you've been racing for a while and you take your t-shirt off and you've got that red line.
Yeah.
Your tits, it looks like you've been wearing a bra.
Yeah. See, Ray's listening.
Problem.
Yeah, I was about to say, Ray's listening to this thinking, oh yeah, don't know what you're on about. Wait till you get fat, Ray. It will happen, and then you'll see what we're on about. James is listening in now, going, "It fucking does." The thing is, it does fucking hurt as well. I mean, I wondered whether it's from eating too soon before, but it's not. It's all just about how you sit.
How fat you are.
Yeah, well, yeah, how fat you are, how you sit. Okay.
So, have you tried your new seating arrangement?
No, not yet, but we'll get onto that in a little while. Because I was going to say, I've only got one more thing to really mention about the race from this weekend. And that is, say the last 15 laps of the race, Would you like to have seen Hamilton give Bottas the win?
No. And then the reason why I say no is because Bottas was asked about this, and he said that he, not under any circumstances does he want to be gifted a win to replace what happened at Sochi.
Yeah.
So if he wins, he wants it to be 100% on merit.
Yeah.
Now, Hamilton has also said that he didn't like it, and he would also want to win every race on merit, but understands the situation and what the team were in at the time.
Yeah.
Now, if Bottas out-qualifies Hamilton between now and the end of the season, I could see Hamilton not challenging him for the victory.
Yeah.
That's the way that Hamilton is kind of going to go, you got qualifying on pole or ahead of me, and I'm not going to challenge you, so therefore you deserve this race.
Yeah.
So it won't be a matter of switching positions around, but I think Hamilton may not put Bottas under pressure if Bottas qualifies ahead of him. And on that, the next race, which is at USA in 2 weeks' time, if Hamilton comes first and Vettel doesn't come second, it's Hamilton's championship.
Yeah.
That's how many points Hamilton's now got in the bag over Vettel. But if Hamilton what I was trying to work out is if Hamilton comes second, how far down does Vettel need to be? And I've not worked that out yet, so I'm going to calculate it in a minute.
Nah, I wouldn't like to see them getting swapped.
That's fair enough. I mean, it's one of those things where I wouldn't have a problem seeing it, but I can understand Hamilton didn't like it when he was gifted the win. If Bottas, I mean, there'd be some people that would go, well, I gave him a win, you should give me a win, and I wouldn't have a problem with that attitude. But if with Bottas saying, no, I don't want them to give me one, I can respect that, because when people look back at his career, he doesn't want people going, yeah, well, he was gifted that win though, because people won't remember that he should have won a race and gave it to Lewis Hamilton. He would be remembered though. The one where he was gifted the win would be remembered. It's like people don't remember when you finish second.
Yeah.
They remember when you finish first, or when you crash out massively,
or how many wins you've had, or stuff like that. It's not how many second places you've had. Yeah. Okay, people count podiums, but that includes victories, but it's about how many wins you've had.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like, let's say, for example, Lewis Hamilton retires at some point, Bottas races for another 15 years, and he ends up tied on victories, right? But let's say, for example, he's gifted a win, and in 15 years' time, Bottas is tied on victories with Lewis Hamilton. But the commentator every time says, well, he is, but he's not as far as I'm concerned, and his co-commentators, why, what do you mean? It's, well, he was gifted a win, I don't count that one. That's what the legacy would be. A little bit like now, Fernando Alonso has done, 308 races, I think it is. However,
officially,
Crofty doesn't count one, because in Russia last year he didn't get to the start line. He started the formation lap, but he didn't finish the formation lap or start the race. Some people class it as, well, you started the formation lap, so you started your race. Or they'll say, well, it was his 300, that was a Grand Prix weekend that he was there, he was ready to race, he was able to race, his car broke down, so that counts. So it needs is that creation of discussion. Go on, Ray.
Restart should be after formation. What? So your races or whatever, 300 races, it shouldn't include the formation lap. I'm with Crofty on that one.
Miserable bastards.
No, I would see it as if you've qualified for the event and your car is on the grid at the start, of that, the lap. Then,
but it's a formation lap. It's not a race lap.
Unofficially, that formation lap is classed as one of the laps of the race.
Yes. You see,
in formation.
and that's the thing that a lot of people don't necessarily realise, is that the formation lap is actually one of the laps of the race. It's just not counted. Because if they called it lap 1, then people go, well, why aren't they just racing? So that's why they have a formation lap.
It's pre-lap 1, but it's still part. It's unofficially part of the race.
So there you go.
So it's not official.
Well, put it this way: if you mess up on that formation lap by crashing into someone, you can have a penalty that will affect your race.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, so come on, Ray, what's your comeback to that?
Aye, that's because you might be messing somebody else's actual race up.
All right, let's say you don't mess somebody else's race up, but you overtake on the formation lap.
Yeah. You
Not
can
allowed to overtake.
Yeah, but what if you do?
But you don't. But if you do that, but you don't make the race, then what's going to happen?
But what if you
What's
do?
What's going to do?
Well, you still get a penalty. If you overtake someone and then crash in the formation lap, you'd still get a penalty for overtaking someone in the formation lap. However, Steve, Ray might be right. It's not an official lap.
So could you argue with the stewards then that it's not an official lap, so it don't count?
Yeah, I would.
So you shouldn't get a penalty. So you could overtake everyone and get to the front.
Can you get a penalty from doing something in FP1, in FP2, in FP3,
Yes.
in qualifying? Yes. Well, they're not official sessions. They're practice sessions.
They are official sessions.
Qualifying is a practice session, but you can get penalties in all of those.
From what I understand, though, if you take part in free practice 1, 2, or 3, and don't qualify and don't race, you're still classed as taking part in the event.
No. Well, you see, there you're getting into another grey area. You will be classed as having taken part in the Grand Prix weekend, but not the race. You see, now this is part of the argument with Alonso. Russia, he wasn't part of the race because the race officially starts when the lights go out. However, unofficially, the formation lap is one of the laps of the race. If it wasn't, they wouldn't have to put the fuel in for said lap.
The lights go out at the start of the unofficial formation lap.
Yeah, but it's different lights that go out.
I'm sure the same lights go out.
No, it doesn't go like 1, 2, 3, 4 red lights and then out. You have two solid red lights that are on, or 5, whatever. They have two. I think it's 2 solid red lights that are on, and then they go out. Or it might even be yellow lights. Yeah, it might be yellow lights
it's flashing
actually.
yellows, is it?
Yeah,
I'm talking about these lights that go out. What do you think to the noise that F1 do with them? That do as the lights come up. It does my bloody head in.
I don't have a problem with it.
But when they go out, it doesn't go do.
That would do my head in. I don't have a problem with the do. I haven't got a problem with that, because I tell you why. Right? Let's say, for example, you're a busy person and you're watching the Formula One, but you're doing stuff, or you're making a cuppa, or whatever. You might be looking away from the screen for a moment. You might be looking at your phone, reading a message from your mate who's saying, "Are you watching the Formula One?" Yeah, I can't wait. Or your boss, or you're texting your boss saying, "Can you?" Oh, balls! I was going to say, if you're texting your boss saying, "Can you bring me some loo roll? I've run out." James. But then you hear that beep straight away. Your brain goes, "Race starting, right? I'll watch."
James says that patch isn't that noise isn't a patch on what the Gran Turismo noise is. That's why I've turned the Gran Turismo noises off.
The Gran Turismo, is there a noise on Gran Turismo?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, when it's counting down to the start of the race on Gran Turismo.
I can't remember. It's been a while since I've driven on it, to be honest. But yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it's not as bad as having the same sort of beep on like a 100 meters race. But I mean, because it's like, okay, you have lights and a beep to start a race where there's really noisy cars, but you have a gun to start a race where there's people. This is like, Okay, you should have a cannon in Formula One. But anyway, right, I think I've pretty much exhausted my... Oh, well, actually, no, I was going to say exhausted my F1 chat, but I have just remembered something that I saw earlier today online, and none of you have mentioned it, so I'm going to. And that is that Lewis Hamilton has come out today and said, well, basically, he's backed up or defended Vettel. He said, because Vettel's obviously been getting bashed a bit, we've bashed him. Others, I mean, Vettel probably don't listen to us, but
Max has bashed him.
yeah, Max has, yeah.
But Vettel bashed him back, yeah.
True. Now, Lewis Hamilton said he said that I feel the media need to show a little more respect for Sebastian. You simply cannot imagine how hard it is to do what we do at our level. For any athlete at the top of their game, that is. It is to be expected that being humans, we will make mistakes, but it is how we get through them that counts. I mean,
he's just rubbing it in.
Yes, he is.
That's true. I wonder if he signed it off with #Monza. But I mean, to be fair, I mean, Vettel did defend Hamilton earlier in the year, and if there's anyone that understands the pressures of fighting for a championship, it's Lewis Hamilton. So I haven't got a problem with him coming out and saying what he said.
It kind of come across as like #deal with it.
Maybe that's what Hamilton should have on the rear wing of his car. But I mean, barring a miracle, though, it looks like Hamilton's going to be taking the title. Now, you know what? We did do a prediction some time ago about who would win the championship.
We did it at the very start of the season.
I don't.
I'm pretty sure we did before the race started. Before the season started, it was on the first one.
Well, you'll have to go back and have a look. Or I suppose I could at some point. So we will have to go and... I've got a feeling that me and James said it'd be Vettel, and I think you said it'd be Hamilton.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that me and James both said we don't want it to be Vettel, but wouldn't be surprised if it is.
Does the winner of that prediction get bonus points?
20.
20 bonus. Okay, I'll take that. So I agree with that. Sorry.
No, minus 20 for being a cocky bastard.
He's no fully cockney.
Not cockney, you. Fucking hell, man. Oh, that's just reminded me of something else. Something else I saw. Sorry, let me just find this. Okay, just bear with me a second. Okay.
Well, while we're bearing with him,
I've got it. But go on.
Oh, you found it? No, it's alright. It'll wait.
Well, this kind of made me think. I don't know why I thought about Scottish person when I read this, but maybe it's just the way that this message went. Okay, so a little girl goes to a pet shop and asks, "Excuse me, do you have any widdle wabbits?" And the shopkeeper's heart melts. He gets down on his knees so that he is on her level and says, "Do you want a widdle wabbit? Sorry, a widdle white wabbit, or a soft fluffy black wabbit, or one like that widdle brown one over there?" And the little girl blushes, rocks back on her heels, puts her hands on her knees, leans forward and whispers, "I don't really think my anaconda gives a fuck."
I
don't know why I thought Scottish with that, but I don't know, just perhaps the Scottish mentality, I don't know.
It sounds like Jonathan Ross wrote that.
I read it. I read it the way it was written. So anyway, right. I think I'm pretty much done for my F1 topics from Suzuka. Other than to say, for me, it was a brilliant race to watch. Definitely one of the better ones this season. I just didn't know if it was because I was so tired that I thought that, or not.
I think it was one of the better ones, because if it wasn't, I would have fallen asleep watching it because of the time of day it was on, and I'd been up all night as well. So yeah, definitely one of the better ones. On to predictions though for USA.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was an alright race and all, alright?
I don't give a fuck what you think, my anaconda.
Do I see my anaconda?
No. Your missus told me it's not an anaconda, it's a worm.
Right, his name is Wiggly Woo.
Wiggly Woo. Okay. Right. We are going to need to do our predictions for USA. So, James, if you're still listening, get ready to come in on these either by message or voice. Let's see if we can catch up to Steve on the points as well. Okay. You're going to have to get thinking, guys. Who's going to be on pole position? Steve?
There's only one master around USA, and that's Hamilton.
Yeah.
It's got to be Hamilton all the way across the board for me. Apart from crashing out the other day. Yeah, so for me, yeah, Hamilton.
Okay. James, are you coming in on voice for your predictions? That'll be a no then. We'll get James's either on the message or... Oh, he's gone Verstappen for pole position. Okay. He has sent me a message. Okay, I'm going to go for... You know what? I'm going to go for Bottas for pole position.
Not yet.
Guys, can I skip the predictions? I've got a win. It's been sick. I'll jump straight back as soon as.
No problem. I predict Ray's going to get covered in puke. Okay, Steve's going to go for Hamilton as the winner. Right, James, let us know who you think your winner will be.
For pole?
Bottas. I'm thinking Bottas pole, Bottas win, Hamilton second, and still takes the title.
Possibly. So James reckons Hamilton for victory. I'm going to go with Hamilton victory.
Okay. Your podium 3.
Okay, for my podium 3, Hamilton first, Bottas second, Vettel third, so he's end up on the podium watching Hamilton take the championship.
Oh, you nasty bastard.
Yeah.
Okay, James or Hamilton, Bottas, Vettel. He's going for the same. See, now that's quite clever from James, right? Because that means, right, if Steve's right, James matches him for points.
No, he doesn't, because he went for Verstappen for pole. So
No.
Verstappen in the race?
But what I mean is, on the podium,
right.
he would match you for points, right?
Yeah.
Because it'd be, if you get that right, that's 5 points. Me though, I'm going to go for Bottas, Hamilton, and Max Verstappen. Okay, first to crash out.
Magnussen.
Okay. James is first to crash out. It's going to be Ericsson. You know what? If Ericsson is the first to crash out in the whole weekend... Oh no, he's changing his mind. He's changing his mind.
Grosjean, I think that means.
Frogman. Okay. Grosjean. It wasn't me calling him Frogman, by the way. That's what James wrote. I'm going to go for... who's going to crash out first? You see, what I'm thinking here is, I'm tempted to go Magnussen, but I actually think he'll tame it down after this weekend. I'm tempted to go Ericsson, but I think he'll just be cautious near the start anyway. Perez won't do... I don't think he'll be doing anything stupid at the start now. I don't think it'll be Leclerc. It's going to be Grosjean. Oh no, James gone Grosjean. I won't go Grosjean. Okay. Vettel.
Excuse me. Right, here's a thought.
Mm.
If Vettel fails to finish,
Yeah.
and Hamilton fails to finish, does that then give Hamilton the championship?
How many races are left? 4. So there'd be 3 races left with 75 points, and there's what gap between them? 63.
Yeah, so it's still possible.
It would still be possible, but if Vettel crashes out, Hamilton can let Bottas lead the race. Mercedes could play it as, right, okay, look, Bottas, you're leading, we're not going to swap you unless we need to. So if Vettel is closing in, we'll switch. But if not, Vettel crashes out, Hamilton stays second, wins the title, Bottas gets his win.
They won't switch. Because of how much aggro it's caused last time. I don't think they'll do it.
No.
Even though it's going to be, they want it to perceived as a nice gesture. I think they won't do it.
To be honest, I don't think Hamilton would want to take the win that gives him the title on a switch of position.
No, I think whoever gets pole will win the race. That's the way I think they'll do it now, between now and the end of the season.
Fair enough. Okay, on to Dick of the Day.
God, so many to choose from.
And just to remind anyone that's viewing this for the first time, we will pick who we think will get Dick of the Day. However, we won't know who's got Dick of the Day until we're on our next podcast and have discussed it and unanimously agreed who the actual Dick of the Day is.
So if viewers want to have a say on who Dick of the Day is, tune in at the start of the show after the next Grand Prix and put your comment in while we're live to say who you think Dick of the Day should be, and we'll take it into consideration.
Interestingly, James thinks that Vettel's going to be doing some washing next week because he's written Vettel drying like a bitch and then changed it to crying. So yeah, Vettel.
But anyway, my Dick of the Day would be the little girl's anaconda. No, I was going to say Ray's anaconda. Right.
Gee, I've got an anaconda. My lovers tell me.
I still think it's going to be K-Mag again, even though he's going to crash out at some point. It could all be to do with the same event, but K-Mag.
Okay, I'm going to go for... who's it going to be?
Well, put it this way, actually. If K-Mag doesn't crash out, it's definitely going to be a Dick of the Day. It's going to be one or the other. It's either going to crash out or he'll be Dick of the Day.
Yeah. Right. Ray, you're going to have a few minutes to think about who your predictions are going to be, and we have got one more prediction to go through. However, you're going to have to talk between yourselves. James, I have seen your message. You're going to have to talk to between yourselves for a minute, because I need to go to the loo. Otherwise, I'm going to shit myself. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Fuck off.
Dave.
That's because we were talking about anacondas. No, what he's about to do.
He's going to play with his anaconda.
That's his corn snake.
Yeah, at this point, he's got no idea what we're talking about. Dear me. I could tell you some stories about Dave, but I better not, because he'll listen back at some point to know what we've been saying. Well, we might as well take this opportunity, Ray, to plug our league.
Yeah.
Yeah. When does it start?
18th October.
18th October, Gran Turismo Sport in the Group 4s. Yeah, 8 p.m. UK time.
Well, you can come in from 7:45.
Yeah, that's right. Lobby
opens 7:45. Race starts when?
8 o'clock. So lobby open at 7:45. Race starts at 8. And we still have, I think, 2 seats currently available. There are some people lined up who potentially might take those seats, but I've not seen them on track yet. So I'm hoping they'll join us this Thursday when we have a race, some racing on GT Sport. So if anybody wants to race this Thursday, just to introduce yourself and say I'd like to potentially have one of those seats that's available, find us on PlayStation. My name on there is Dynamic GT, and actually it's not, is it? It's DGT. No. Yeah, it's DGT League _SGP. and Ray is the same, but with SRI. So that's speak properly. DGT League _SRI or SGP. Send us a friend request on there, and we'll get you in for a race on Thursday, this Thursday, from about 8 o'clock, and the league is the following Thursday. We might as well not leave
James out.
out.
You don't fancy GT Sport and you like Project Cars. James has a league on Project Cars 2 called Forever Relentless Racing, and I'll let you go with the ins and outs of that one, because
in the description there should be a link to James's YouTube channel, where if you listen to some of the previous races you'll hear some very interesting commentating, and I'll probably say it's the most unique commentating you'll ever hear from some racing events. I do know that they're having a bit of a mid-season break at the minute, but you can catch up on some of their previous races on YouTube and send James some messages if you wish to participate on that.
Yep.
So I think Dave must have gone for a big poo because he's not back yet. I know that James has just sent a message to see what James has got to say. Well, Dave said, "Fuck, that was close." James says, "Thanks for plugging his league, no problem." So Group 4 cars on Gran Turismo Sport. How would you describe them?
They're okay. They're not slow. They're not fast. And with all the different cars, you get all different racing. So people might be quick on the straights, people might be quicker in the corners. So it's very interesting racing.
Yeah. And even though we have balance of performance switched on, it doesn't necessarily mean all the cars respond exactly the same and drive exactly the same, because they all still have their own characteristics. It just means that they are more closer together in racing, and that's one of the things we're trying to do with the league, is to have the racing nice and close. So we will have a week boost on, so if you get spun off quite early on in the race, you've got a chance to catch back up again. The races will be 40 minutes long, so people will have the chance to catch back up again. Tyre wear will be on ×5, and it'll be the racing tyres that will be allowed to be used. So that's racing super soft, medium and hard, and so we could see lots of different strategies with tyres as well. Some people might try a 1 stop, some people might try 2 or 3 stops. I'm still undecided what to do myself, but I'm sure we'll have a little try with tyre wear on this Thursday to see what we can do. And
I think it's more about the track itself, to be honest with you, because you can go around Brands Hatch Indy and near enough 1 stop it, but then if you go to maybe a bigger track, you're 2 stopping.
Yeah, that's true. Depends on I'd agree with you. The cars that we're using they do have a bit of downforce. They are quite grippy. I think I've heard Dave on his way back. Dave says, "What's the first track, Ray?" I think it's
Brands Hatch Indy.
Brands Hatch Indy, yeah. I think actually this Thursday we've not decided on what cars we're going to race with this Thursday, but because it's the last week before the season starts, either we've got to go with something really interesting, or maybe it would be a good idea to use the cars that we use for the season to get people a bit of practice in them.
Go-karts.
Go-karts. The last race of the evening we'll definitely do go-karts.
When it's only just 2 people, when it's me and myself.
Or we wait for the lobby to be full and then I just switch it and start the race immediately. That'd be interesting. But yeah, I think doing Group 4 cars for this week might be good for people.
I want to, because I want to stay away from the N group cars for this last race.
I'd agree with you.
Because I give you a bit of a battle when you're trying to race them, just due to the handling prospects of them. So I'd like to take it easy before.
I think as well, using if we do Group 4s, because at the moment I still don't know what car I'm going to use for the league, and just with me saying that, you don't have to use the same car for the league. for every race. You can change from race to race. But if the first race is going to be Indy, Brands Hatch Indy, I don't know what car I'm going to use for that yet. So
didn't take long for you to start plugging your league, did it?
No, but you should have said what we should have. You should have heard what we said as soon as you went off, Dave.
What?
Oh, you'll have to listen back to that.
Great.
We did plug James's league as well.
That's good. We started doing the predictions and I was fine. About halfway through I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to need the loo. I got to a point where I was like, I can't wait any longer. it was close.
So where were we up to in the predictions?
Well, we're going to need all of Ray's, but we'll get to that in a moment. So we've got one more prediction to do. And last week we did who will have the most positions gained. I'm thinking.
There's a comment. Do you want to buy a YouTube banner?
No.
Yeah. I thought we might be back on now. Apologies if you can hear us, folks. That something just happened. Odd happened with my broadcasting software. Okay, yeah, so we need to carry on with the finish off the predictions. If one of you guys can just check whether the stream is back up and running again properly. So obviously I can't listen to it while I'm talking, otherwise it comes through on the broadcast. So yeah, we are going to need to finish off the predictions, and then I will run through again what everyone has picked. Now, last week we did, for the last prediction, was who will have the most positions gained. For this week, I'm thinking, well, not this week, for the next for the next race, I'm thinking we do most positions lost.
Ooh, that'd be an interesting one. Now, does this take into account somebody that started the race but didn't finish the race, or is it someone that still finishes the race but lost positions?
It is simply whoever loses the most positions. Now, it doesn't mean that you can start first, go all the way down to last, and then come back up to first. You haven't lost 19 positions.
No.
You've lost again nothing. But it's as simple as there should be no further questions here, Steve. Whoever has lost the most places.
But if you don't finish the race,
it doesn't matter. You get listed as finishing in 20th, 19th, 18th, 17th. As I said, there should be no further questions. It is whoever has lost the most places. So if whoever is on first crashes out first, they would have lost the most places.
So I don't agree with that.
Tough.
Because it may not be their fault that they've been crashed out.
Don't matter.
Losing positions means that they've not been able to progress in the race.
You're asking loads of questions. James has just gone bosh, Ricardo. See, that's how you do it, Steve. Question, answer, done.
Okay, Raikkonen.
Okay. And I'm going to go for Vettel, because he's going to crash out. Okay, so now I need to get all of Ray's predictions. So hopefully you've been thinking about that, Ray. So we'll fire through those quickly. Who's going to get pole position?
Lewis Hamilton.
Okay, who is going to take the win?
Lewis Hamilton.
Who is going to be on the podium?
Lewis Hamilton, Bottas and Vettel.
Okay, so you've gone for the same as Steve, James. I was going to say and Ray, but you are Ray. First to crash out.
Oh, Magnussen.
Okay, and who is going to get Dick of the Day? Oh, that reminds me, James did change his Dick of the Day, didn't he? To Perez.
Right, no. Grosjean.
Are you sure?
Yeah, he said Frogman.
No.
Or was that who was going to crash?
He then changed it again. He changed it to... He put Frogman. Frogman is first to crash out. And then he chose Vettel for Dick of the Day, but then he changed it, saying, no, Perez is going to be the Dick. Okay, Ray, Dick of the Day.
Magnussen.
Okay, and most positions lost.
Ricardo.
Ooh. Going from most positions gained to most positions lost. Right, I'm done on the F1 stuff.
That means we're done.
I think we might be. I think we might well. Actually, I've got a little bit of news for you.
What?
On the podcast, I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe, I mentioned about the attractive woman that works at the co-op, but I also mentioned about the really attractive woman that works at the chemist.
The one that you made a fool of yourself in front of.
No, I didn't make.
Oh no, that was the other one, wasn't it?
That was the one in the co-op. No, the one. You know what? It's only just occurred to me, right? I had to go to the chemist today, right? So I got dressed and went to the chemist. It's only just now occurred to me that I did go with my T-shirt that said, was it "Everything's better with a Dave" or something like that. I forgot I wore that T-shirt. But anyway, I was in there. I was sorting stuff out, and then all of a sudden she goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna need your number," and I was like, "Fucking yes, man, I'm in." And then I realised, no, she needs my phone number on the form that I'm filling in. So for a split second, I was about to go, "No problem, you can have my number," and then I was like, "Oh, actually, no, it needs to go on the form, doesn't it?" What a dick.
You should have said you would like my number.
No, I'm not good. I wasn't going to do that. Definitely not.
Ray asked about your seat. Have you tried it yet?
No, I've not tried it yet. It's been in position for a few days. The seat is all done. It's finished.
Tell him what happened yesterday.
Oh, nothing.
I was invited round today. It was on false pretenses.
No, hang on.
Yes.
You invited yourself round.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were here, I just asked for your help with something, just moving a little rug.
Was it easy to move a little rug?
No, which is why I asked for help. The rug was under the seat and a desk, so it was not easy to move.
And a TV.
Yeah.
And your pedals, steering wheel, the whole rig, and a filing cabinet,
a table, a PC,
and a PC.
Yeah. At least I remembered to take the drawers out of the desk. But anyway, the racing rig is now built. It's all together. I've not used it because getting everything in the right position has absolutely ruined me for days. So I've not even sat down in the seat. But I will hopefully within the next couple of days get a chance to have a go on it. I've already designed and planned a sort of worktop that I'm going to build, or try to build, to put the TV on, because the TV needs raising up about 25 centimeters, I think it is. I want to make something proper that goes in the corner of my room to make it all look a lot nicer. But to be fair, it has made a massive transition to my living room and my living area and everything. So I'm quite happy. I've had no energy to actually have a go on it yet.
I think we're done, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it got you to move it, and he never let you have a shot on it. Terrible.
I know. We never actually. Thing was, right? It was that difficult to move. We never put everything back again afterwards.
Yeah. I didn't get everything back into position until about 4:30 this morning. We did it at about 9 o'clock last night.
Yeah.
Right. I can hear a brain screaming in the background. I'm going to have to call it a night with you guys, but
no problem.
It was nice being in.
Yep. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Ray. We are going to call it a night there on our I'll Tell You What TV F1 podcast. So thank you to Ray for joining us. Thank you to Steve for joining us. Thank you to James for joining us. And hopefully James's mouth is going to get better soon. And his gum turns back to a normal sort of colour soon as well. There's a good chance, with there not being a race this weekend, there's a good chance we'll take a break from having a podcast next week, give James an opportunity to recover, get his operation done and out of the way, and perhaps give me a chance to let Steve have a go on my gaming rig. So yeah, check us out in 2 weeks time for a review of Lewis Hamilton winning the championship in America. which is more than likely going to happen, and we'll see how we got on with our predictions. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all again soon.
See ya.
Blah 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 blah.